Hey everybody, it is Callahan Nitro for Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and every year I do a couple of reviews that are kind of out of canon with, your WWE, New Japan, AEW form. And this event has quickly become one of the most talked about and most popular, and the one that I get the most requests to cover. So, this past weekend on October 20th, 2019, from the Odeum Expo Center in Villa Park, Illinois, not quite Chicago, but one of the suburbs, I guess, Impact Wrestling put on its Bound for Glory 2019 card. Now, a quick history, 2017, maybe not the best pay-per-view card out there that anybody's seen. It was pretty much a train wreck from start to finish. 2018, a lot better. A lot more smoother flow between matches and that stuff. They were trying some new things with their established stars and trying to establish some new stars there. It was really good. What did 2019 bring us for Bound for Glory? Well, this is my take on Bound for Glory and some of the stuff that I found interesting, some of the stuff I didn't like. And yeah, it was a very interesting card to say the least. So apparently in dark matches prior to the card, Madison Rayne defeated Shotzi Blackheart. Now Shotzi's, I guess, on her way to NXT here shortly. So one of the last independent performances for her, and good on her. And the Rascals, Desmond Xavier, Trey Miguel, and Zachary Wentz defeated the AAA team of Dr. Wagner Jr., Aerostar, and Taurus. So don't forget, Impact's got a partnership with AAA as well, so I think that there's a lot of going to be a lot of cross-pollination potentially here, and that's why I predict maybe in the future that Impact might end up becoming a developmental for AEW. I think that it might end up rolling out that way, as we've seen with a lot of the tweets and that stuff. With who was it? I think the North challenging the Young Bucks or something, or was it Scott D'Amore sending it out? I can't remember, either or. But to potentially show up on a WrestleMania weekend card next year down in Tampa, we'll have to wait and see what happens off of that. The opening contest was the Bound for Gold Gauntlet Match, where the winner could choose any championship of their choosing. Very interesting concept to this basically Royal Rumble style affair, in which it was intergender, which means men and women could vie for any title on the Impact roster, not just a Knockouts title. So I often wondered if the winner of this thing was, say, like a Eddie Edwards or something like that, could he challenge for a Knockouts title? I mean, Jordan Grace and that stuff said that she wanted to challenge for the tag titles, and maybe Rosemary challenging for like the X Division title or something like that. It's a beard scratcher, isn't it? And of course, the Odeum in Chicago is the home of Anarchy Rules 1999, and they alluded to it a couple times during the broadcast as well. One of the great ECW pay-per-views, the original ECW, that emanated from that venue back in 1999, so already 20 years ago. That makes me feel old. That's crazy. One of the interesting things about this style of match was you got introduced to Impact's kind of mid-card and undercard, and it's a lot of young guys that you may have heard of through the indie scene, and a lot of other young guys that were kind of bubbling below the surface a little bit. Honestly, maybe the only people that I was familiar with going into this thing was, of course, Eddie Edwards, who ended up winning the entire thing. So he gets a title shot whenever he wants on, I guess, whatever championship. I would think it would be the Impact World Championship would be next. He's still rocking this kind of crazy character that he did off of the feud with Sami Callahan earlier this year and late last year. So yeah, I think it's a good fit for him. It's actually one of the interesting story arcs that Impact does have going for it right now. But a lot of the people in this Battle Royal I was kind of getting introduced to the first time. Reno Scum, the Desi Hit Squad, although I am kind of more familiar with Raj Singh in that group than anybody else, and of course the Great Gama, just due to the Calgary connection. And Raj was one half of the tag team champions back in the day with Jinder Mahal. That's right, WWE's Jinder Mahal. They were the new Karachi Vice back in the day here. But a 30-minute battle royal. Like I said, getting introduced to a lot of people, the Deaners, Reno Scum, etc., etc. Sabu, a Legends appearance. We get him in 2019. You know, it's kind of wild. Sawyer Fulton looked very impressive in this thing as just kind of like the big man that just was eliminating everybody left, right, and center. I did love the fact that you had people from any weight class in this thing and any gender. So we saw a great face-off between Jessica Havoc and Rosemary. We saw Kiera Hogan in this thing. You know, Jordan Grace as well. So it was kind of like a no limits rumble, which is really cool and one of the awesome aspects of indie wrestling now in 2019. No limits. Well, it's kind of like the X Division. No limits. And of course, Eddie Edwards got the win with the Boston Knee Party. Match itself times out to about an even 30 minutes and is a fun watch. One of the more controversial aspects of that Battle Royal was Kylie Rae making her debut with Impact. Just due to the fact, I'm saying controversial just due to the fact that we're not exactly 100% clear on why she left AEW after Double or Nothing weekend, if it was just a falling out between two parties or both parties couldn't come to an agreement on something. But she's with Impact Wrestling now, and I think that that's a great babyface character for the Knockouts division to have, and she can pretty well work with anybody, and I think that Impact's the proper promotion and proper spot for her to be at right now, especially going on to Access TV. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Second match on the card was for the Impact Knockouts title as Taya Valkyrie took on Tenille Dashwood, and of course Tenille, another pickup for Impact going into the Access run here a little bit, fresh off of her run with Ring of Honor. So a feud of two former SWA grads, Storm Wrestling Academy grads, and Taya's first match ever against Tenille Dashwood way back in the day. So they are very familiar with each other, and it showed. It was a really great match. It kind of it flowed really well. I found that the technical production was kind of off this pay-per-view. I found out that Impact was working with a brand new production company to do all their technical production stuff, and there was times where the audio kind of sounded off. It sounded like Matthews and Cyrus were kind of in a can almost, broadcasting a little bit, and then at other times it was clear. It sounded like the sound was kind of off and everything, and it didn't really register the loudness of the building. I imagine that building got pretty loud. I mean, they sold it out. It was, you know, very reminiscent to a ECW Anarchy Rules 99 style crowd, and when they did that, that was the largest crowd I think ECW ever drew, and that was about 6,000 people. So maybe a shade under that for an announced attendance for this thing. I'd safely say about 4,500, but it was really confusing at time with everything getting really muffled and really down, and you can really hear the crowd at all during this at all at any time. So the finish of the match, Tenille Dashwood hit the spotlight kick after two MMite sandwiches in the corner, that kind of low crossbody that she does. And while ejecting Johnny Bravo, who walked out with Taya Valkyrie, and that's another story because of John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact re-signing with WWE, the Johnny Bravo heel character, manager, valet thing for Taya and Johnny, of course, has to default over to Taya, and they've just made Taya a heel. So it's a good fit. It's a good act. I think they're still working on the chemistry a little bit, but Taya grabbed the chain from Bravo, and Tenille went for another spotlight after throwing the chain out of the ring, but Taya was able to hit the Road to Valhalla for 1, 2, and 3 for a free count to retain the title. Again, a very interesting and very entertaining match. It just didn't seem like the crowd was there at all, you know, and as of the end of the pay-per-view, it was 288 days as a Knockouts champion for Taya Valkyrie, so a nice long run for her there. The runtime of the match, as I just look it up here on the thing, was 11:50, and honestly I could have lived with it going 15 minutes, but man, that crowd needed to be a little bit warmer and a little bit more receptive to what they were doing. Like, they were just pulling out all the stops in this match. It was actually fairly decent. Next matchup was a triple threat tag match where we had the North of Alexander and Ethan Page take on the ECW legends of RVD and Rhino, Rob Van Dam and Rhino, and the tag team of Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Another great video package. Like the pre-production for this thing was incredible. Just the problem was the EFP and live production for this thing was a little shoddy. There was a lot of holes in it and that stuff. I think there's been local hockey games and that stuff that I've heard with better audio quality than what they had at times. So I don't know what they were doing, and maybe it was something they could work out with for the past. Man, that sun is bright, but you know, hey, it's sunny day here. What can you do? Yeah, still not in love with RVD's TNA theme. It's trope worthy now at this point. I think RVD desperately needs a theme rework for Impact Wrestling. So if Impact is listening, you know, maybe rework the theme a little bit, just due to the fact that it is terrible. The North have been incredible heel champions for Impact. If not for MJF over in AEW, I'd say that Ethan Page would be the best heel in the independents not working in WWE, but I guess we can kind of say that now anyway, just due to the fact that, well, hey, WWE and AEW are kind of considered on the same level now, 1 and 2, so, or 1A and 1B, and you know, I guess Ethan Page is the best heel on the indies right now at this point. Not a lot of things noteworthy in this match. We got a RVD heel turn, it looks like, where he turned on Rhino. A crowd really hot for the boo, just due to Chicago being an ECW hotbed. That allowed the North to kind of retain the titles because they could, I guess, sequester Rhino in the ring and dispose of Willie Mack and Rich Swann. So, again, other than that, wasn't very notable. Good pace, but it would be a decent TV match for anywhere else. It was 14-20, and Ethan Page and Josh Alexander again retained the Impact Tag Team Championships. We had a Puro Rezu strong style dream match up next, where Marufuji from Noah took on Michael Elgin in a match that was pretty much a match of the night contender, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this match. It was back and forth, a solid 18 minutes and 5 seconds, with Elgin defeating Marufuji at the 18:05 mark. Marufuji, of course, is Noah's ace right now. He's a little banged up because his shoulder was all taped up and everything like that. But if you want to watch one singles match from the card, it would probably be this one. This was the best singles match, and my pick for match of the night, just above that next match that we're going to talk about, the 5-way X Division match. But the Emerald Fusion for Elgin gives him the pin at 18:05. It was a great back and forth encounter. The crowd, again, though, didn't really seem too hot for it, so I'm not sure if, again, it was just bad miking of the crowd or if the show itself was just kind of blah. But I'd go with former rather than the latter, because the matches were great. The match qualities for the majority of these matches were awesome. So up next was a 5-way X Division title match. It was a real collision of feuds here, because you had Tessa with her issue with Jay Christ and OVD, Tessa Blanchard, Ace Austin, versus, of course, trying to establish himself in that feud with Eddie Edwards, AC Romero, and the two wild cards here were AC Romero and Dago, who had just signed into this match. I think the deal with AC Romero was he had just signed on Friday, and they just threw him right into this thing. So it was kind of square peg round hole, I thought, at the beginning of it. But man, he took some of the more creative and crazy bumps in this match. Like, it was just insane watching this dude work. Dude is a legit 400-pounder, and he's just taking ladder dives and everything. He picked up a fan in me here. Like, man, he just eye-opening performance. He was the all-star of the night for sure in this thing. So was Tessa as well, and it was a great match. This thing was just entertaining from bell to bell, and I had a lot of fun, and I actually went back and rewatched it after the show wrapped. It was phenomenal and such a great match. Everybody involved should be commended with all the weapon play and everything like that. Again, another amazing contest off of this. I actually have written down here my pick for match tonight. All right, so I'll adjust it. Maybe Elgin and Marufuji, we could put that aside as the runner-up, but this was match tonight for sure. Finish of the match ended up being OVE running in and trying to interfere with Tessa. She was reaching for the X Division title. Again, this was a ladder match, and Tessa pretty much dispatched all of OVE. So you finally think, yes, she's finally going to get her hands on one of the big singles belts in Impact, and then out of nowhere, Ace Austin, with his little entrance baton or sword or whatever he has that he walks out with, just smokes Tessa across the forehead with it and grabs the X Division title. So Ace Austin is your new X Division champion. So I wouldn't mind seeing a feud between both of them. That'd be fun, but I don't think that the Tessa Blanchard OVE thing is kind of dead and buried just yet. But if it is, it actually was a really good way to send it out, was with this one. Next matchup was the dream match, another dream match on this card, but you had Moose versus the returning Ken Shamrock, of all people, from the glory days of UFC, and of course the former WWF Intercontinental Champion. And I think this is Shamrock's first wrestling match in a long time, and indeed it was. I think the last time he was in a North American ring, or a major North American ring, was when he was NWA Champion back in 2002, and that was a long time ago. So the crappy sound really affected Moose's entrance on the pay-per-view, which sucks. It kind of had a Rocky vibe to it, a little bit like a little Apollo Creed, a little Rocky to it, and Moose had this awesome robe done up and everything, but just the theme music kind of being botchy through the sound system and that stuff really didn't add to the vibe at all or anything. Moose trained with longtime Shamrock rival in the UFC, Frank Trigg. If you're a if you are a mixed martial arts fan, you'll know that name. So it's a built package deal. Shamrock comes to the ring, 55 years old, and is absolutely ripped. He looks like he can go for another run, which is crazy right now. The dude is, again, just ripped, stacked, ready to rock. And busts out in the first 5 minutes a no-touch tope onto Moose, like Undertaker style dive, and you've seen gifs of it on the internet. Holy cow, that was amazing. And then we saw that Shamrock may not have the ring cardio anymore, because it looked like he kind of blew up after that and kind of crumpled. But dude's 55. I mean, cut him some slack, right? So finished of the match after an ankle lock. The finish of the match, after an ankle lock attempt, Moose pulls Shamrock into the corner. Shamrock kind of hits the exposed turnbuckle that Frank Trigg pulled out of the corner earlier in the match. And Moose then hits a spear, 1-2-3. And even at that point, Shamrock was so gassed that he barely, it was like he forgot to hit the turnbuckle when they sent him in into the corner. So it was like kind of, he goes in and then, oh yeah, right, boom, and then it's like, and that was it. And I thought this match went way too long. This would have been better if it was treated kind of like Lesnar Goldberg, and the match went short, like maybe about 4 or 5 minutes, trying to get, what was the runtime on this thing? Man, I don't know. Trying to get 10:35 out of these guys was even much. I would have cut it in half and aimed for the 5-minute mark and try to get this thing wrapped up quickly. There's a way that you can try to get all that stuff in that they were doing in about 5 or 6 minutes, and hell, even a 6-minute match would have been fine. 10, a little bit long. I felt like it was dragging a little bit, but a major win for Moose as he continues his, I guess, being escalated as one of the top heels in Impact Wrestling going into the Access era. Then, of course, the main event for the Impact World Championship, the Machine Brian Cage took on Sami Callahan, and this thing was a no disqualification street fight that went all over the building. And if it weren't for that X Division match, which clicked all the boxes, this would be match of the night as well. There's about 2 or 3 great matches on this card that you need to see. Elgin, Marafuji, the ladder match, and Callahan and Cage. Those guys brought it in this match. Or on those matches, I guess I should say, and it was just one of the real pleasures to watch all 3 matches this year kind of happen. I think they'll be in a lot of discussions for everybody's favorite matches of the year, not so much a match of the year type candidate, but for rewatchability, I think all 3 of them are very rewatchable for sure. They got off to a hot start with no intro. Impact using a ton of emotions in their matches tonight, which is great. A ton of emotions from the wrestlers. You could tell that this was a big deal, and they were just really pounding into each other for sure. Callahan busted open from a bite earlier on. Din gets I wrote down death matched. Pretty much just cut open or ripped open again via a Wolverine claw from Cage's entrance costume that he had, which is kind of brutal and insane, and kind of makes me want to see Brian Cage in a death match for whatever reason. That's kind of sick, isn't it? Callahan got back suplex through a table ringside twice, but the table didn't break, so another I am the table type spot. Wouldn't be surprised, actually. I guess Botchmania would be out already. Wouldn't be surprised if it made this week's Botchmania or not for the I am the table segment, so something to look for. Cactus Special bends the guardrail in half later on during the match from Callahan. He can execute that, I think, even better than Cactus, so I think we can rename it the Callahan Special now. Later on in the match, Brian Cage no-sells a pile driver onto Thumbtacks by kicking out at the 1 count, and I was like, what? That's a part of the match, though, where a no-sell really works, I think, and the crowd all of a sudden just really got into this. Like, the crowd was hot throughout the entire main event, but at this point, like, they took it to the next level. It was insane. For the finish, Brian Cage retains with the drill claw on Sami Callahan, onto the Thumbtacks into the ring for the 1-2-3 count. This match was crazy for sure, and with a runtime of 2 hours and 50 minutes, Bound for Glory 2019 signed off, and yeah, I think it was one of the best Bound for Glories over the past 5 years. I think that this one really, they went back to basics with it, and save for going a little bit longer than they needed to with Shamrock and Moose, and having some production snafus with the audio and that stuff. I think the card delivered on all accounts. You had some surprise debuts. I mean, we didn't even talk about Joey Ryan debuting and signing with the company now, so he's on Impact on Access every Tuesday. Kylie Ray, of course, coming in straight from AEW, or the AEW run that she had. They got some great talent on that card, and it was they're going to be fun to watch. You know, the undercurrents of wrestling, they may overtake Ring of Honor yet and kind of slide into, I guess it would be that 5 slot of top 5 of important, I guess, wrestling federations around the world at this point, and the ones with the major TV, and the Access deal helps a big time for sure. I'll give Bound for Glory 2019 a solid 8 out of 10, and a please watch again for sure, even with the production issues that they had with the audio and the fonting and the sound and that stuff. I think that that was the only real takeaway of negativity out of this thing. I guess the overbooking of Shamrock and Moose. I think that they could have done a lot more with a lot less, so, but that's just hindsight. Anyways, I'm Kellen Nitro, Later Days. Happy wrestling watching. Thanks again for tuning in. Check us out and subscribe. tinyurl.com/NitroManiacTV. And we'll catch you next time on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited.